Good afternoon, Facebook. Thank you so much for joining. It's the Civilized Presence, and you are definitely in the right place at the right time. Give us a moment. We're trying to figure things out. We're just having a little bit of a feedback, but we should be fine. Welcome. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. It's the Civilized Presence. I'm not sure why we're having.
No, yeah, my audio is low.
Yeah, okay. We're still having a little bit of a feedback, but let's see what happens. Just give us a moment. We are about to get things going as soon as possible. Just give us a moment. I'm looking for this video. So welcome, guys. Come on in and let us know where you're joining us from. I can see people in the comment box. Welcome, Ini. It's great to have you. We are just trying to make sure that we get the video up and running. I think this is going to be good. So, all right. Okay. Okay. So we are having a little bit of trouble. Just give us a moment, sis.
Reduce sound.
Okay. Guys, welcome. I can see that people are sending in comments. I can't see your comments here. Just give me a moment. We will be there soon. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome, Chika. It's good to have you. Welcome, Ini. It's good to have you in the house. It's the Civilized Presence. I have missed everyone. I know that I've been away from a little bit because, I'll tell you a bit about that. Welcome, Sibyl. It's good to have you in the house. Sandra, it's good to have you. Esther, it's good to have you. Wenger, it's good to have you in the house. Come on in, guys, and let me know where you're joining us from. Give us a moment. I'm just going to have our promotional video come on. Okay, welcome everyone. Pedro, it's good to have you in the house. Thank you so much for making out time to be here. And please do us a favor, share this video on your page, invite others to be part of what we're doing. And just share it on your page, on your business page, wherever that you're coming in from. Let us know where you're joining us from. I can see people who are coming in from California, Nigeria, Canada, London. It is wonderful to have you in our midst today. Thank you so much. We're having a bit of a feedback from Instagram. I think I'm going to turn this off, sister. I would just, Instagram is giving us trouble. I don't know why, but I am happy to have everyone here. Welcome, Sikoni, my friend. Thank you so much for making out time to be here. Some of you might not know who I am. My name is Dr. Louisa Akaizo, and I am a Master Civility Trainer, a woman development advocate, and of course, an author for several books. I'm also a leadership expert with the John Maxwell team. What I do is I work confidently with leaders and professionals that place great importance in themselves and their reputation. And of course, that's going to be you this afternoon because you made out time to be here. Thank you so much, Pharrell. It's good to have you in the house. So many people are jumping in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If I haven't mentioned your name, it's probably because you're not directly on my page. And let me tell you guys, it looks like Facebook is playing a prank this afternoon, but I'm excited. Thank you, Pharrell. Thank you. It's always so good to have you here. Thank you. And I have one of the best in the house. So listen, if you got here by mistake, you need to have a sit. Grab your cup of water, bring your pen and paper, because we have one of the best in the world. I am so pleased and honored to have Ambassador Uyime right here in our midst today. So let me tell you a bit about who she is and why I'm so excited. Ambassador Uyime Ivy King well, I could say Mrs. Unyima Ivy King, so her husband doesn't shoot me the next time, is a woman of many parts and diversities with a wealth of experience that spans several fields. She is, first of all, a passionate God lover and an anointed scribe who sees her writing as an important calling and ministry which enables her function as an influencer and change agent in the society. She's also the CEO of HTT Communications, a publishing, communications, and branding company, an author, publisher. She is a conference speaker, duly certified marriage mentor, relationship coach, child protection specialist, and a mental health and addictions therapist from the Institute for Marriage and Family Affairs in the US. And she also holds a certification in women leadership from Plan USA. Ambassador King, Uyema King, is a graduate of English from the University of Uyo with additional certifications in media enterprise and advanced writing and reporting from the Pan Atlantic University School of Media and Communications in Lagos. She was appointed eminent ambassador of peace with the United Nations by the International Organization of World Peace Advocates, AAWPA, in 2014. She is also the executive director of the Save Our Women and Girls Foundation in Lagos, where young girls and women are groomed to develop entrepreneurial skills and become productive families or members of the family, communities, and nation at large. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Ambassador Uyema King. Welcome, Mary. It's so good to have you here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you very much, Louisa. It's so good to be here.
Absolutely. Good.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. So we are just so excited and we're just going to jump right into the deal of today because I know everyone is
Hello?
kind of like, Louisa, we need you to back up and let us hear from our guest. And I'm about to do that.
I can't hear you anymore.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is it better now? Is it?
Hello?
Hello? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. I wasn't hearing you.
Okay, great. It's going to work out. So, guys, the topic of today, of course, is one that is so special and, you know, it touches everyone. I know that this whole era has been accepted. And, of course, if we look at the news or personally, you accept that it has been such an unprecedented times. And this is not a joke, guys. Every one of us has gone through some kind of pain. From the beginning of this year, you have suffered some kind of loss. Maybe it's someone in your family, someone around, a colleague, a friend, someone, acquaintance, whatever, that has been a victim of this deadly disease, which is COVID-19, and that's part of it. But then some of us who are still here, who are blessed to be here, have suffered other losses. Maybe not the disease, but the impact of the disease. And some of the impacts of the disease, if we look at the media, are things like, you know, divorce. We've had issues with our relationships. We've had issues with our mental health or emotional health. And this is as a result of people being forced to be in one environment together. You know, we were on a lockdown and quarantine for a period of time. And you will agree with me that majority of marriages might seem so glamorous, but there is no relationship. And that's why we want to talk about this. This is some hard talk. And so, guys, come on in. I don't know about how many people are going to like me after this session, but I hope so. But this is some very important heart-to-heart talk conversation that we really have to deal with the elephant in the room. And if we don't, the thing is, some of us might be saying, Louisa, but I'm not even married. Oh, okay, I'm not even with my spouse. Oh, I don't have kids. Listen, let me tell you, whatever you're going to learn from this session, you can use it not just in your marriage, but your relationship with other people. And so we take the time to choose the best. If you see anyone in this show, let me tell you, these are the best of the best. And Ambassador Oyema King is doing an amazing work, with women, with girls. That was a really short bio about her. Let me tell you, this woman is one that I really respect so much for the work that she does. I'm blessed to be on her WhatsApp, so I always enjoy some interesting write up every single day. There's always great nuggets. She's always adding value to everyone around her. I mean, her conversation is all about change. So you cannot be around her and be rubbing off negatively. It's impossible. So let's go back to the area of marriage. Marriage is one that it's such an important ministry, which of course God really entrusts us with. Now, some of you here might not be people of faith. That's okay, but I am a Christian, so you might hear me talk about God and all of that. And it's difficult for me to do my work without talking about God. So yeah, you'll get used to that. Now that we've said that about marriage, how many people really do enjoy a fruitful marriage? I'm not saying that we're not going to have conflicts. Don't get me wrong. We're going to have conflicts because you're two different people coming together. It's meant to happen. But how do you work with your spouse? How do you make things work? And guys, do me a favor. Just step out for a minute and share this video on your page, because these are questions that have been coming up. And I want to say thank you for all of you who continuously sent me messages and emails because of topics that you want to hear. So I know that this is a topic that I've received tons of mails and messages about. So please invite others. Don't keep me as your best kept secret, okay? If you're enjoying this topic, 99% people who are on your platform will benefit from what we're talking about. So come on in. Come and learn some nugget and take it away to other people so that you can behave and think differently when some of these challenges begin to come at you. Now, the topic of today is how to work as a team in marriage. Now, I want to say that I really do appreciate everyone who is joining us, but I don't want to take too much of our guest time. So if I haven't called your name, I want to take a moment to tell you that I love you very much. This period is so important for us to share love, because we're losing so many people. So guys, you need to learn how to hold each other's hands and just send someone a text every morning and just tell them you appreciate them, because maybe that's what they were just waiting for. Yeah. So guys, let's go back to this topic. How to work as a team in marriage. And of course, we have the best of the best in the house who is going to be talking to us about what are some of the, misconceptions and notions of marriage, coming from African descent. Marriage means something totally different, guys. It's so interesting from where I come from, because sometimes marriage could mean a man and woman joining together and become as one. And marriage can also mean a father who is forcing a daughter into the marriage. It's like, hey, we don't want to see you here. You're already over a certain age, and automatically, the society believes you should be out of the door. Nobody knows if you're ready for what's coming up. And so it looks so glamorous that you're just going to get married to this man and just walk in and change your name to Mrs. this and Mrs. that. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to bust up your bubbles, guys, because there's so much more in marriage. And this is why it leads so fast to divorce, because the right foundations haven't been put in place. So our discussion today, I'm going to hand it back to our guests right now, Ambassador King. My first question for you would be, why marriage? What are the misconceptions about marriage? Whether it's back in Africa or globally, what are the things that the mistakes that we've made and we should be looking into? Over to you, Ambassador King.
Okay. Thank you very much, Louisa. You have said a lot, and I believe that we are going to have an awesome time this evening. I so much believe in marriage because it's an institution, it's a divine institution, and it was designed for power. And a lot of people go into marriage with preconceived notions about what marriage is. They've built a lot of expectations around marriage that has held them hostage. And growing up, many people had fairy tale ideas about marriage. and they got into the marriage and they landed smack on their backsides because they didn't expect what hit them. A lot of these ideas came from popular culture that says that once you find the one, everything is going to be hunky-dory, it's going to be smooth sailing and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And also a lot of the misconceptions about marriage has come from parents or relatives who modeled the wrong values about marriage. So a lot of people come into marriage, maybe you've seen your parents growing up resolve conflict by shouting at each other, calling each other names. So a lot of people grow up to see conflict as a negative thing in marriage. So that's one preconceived notion that people come into marriage with. They believe that once there's a quarrel or there's a disagreement, it means that's a bad marriage. Or a lot of people see intense conflict with in-laws. Maybe they live in homes where their parents are saying all sorts about their in-laws. So they come into marriage expecting that they're going to experience this conflict. So a lot of these things come from from media, from books, from the movies that people get to watch. Many people believe that going into marriage automatically translates into a forever honeymoon. And it doesn't work like that. Marriage is laden with a lot of unpredictable events. And sometimes you need a helmet. You need to put on a helmet to forestall any crashes, because some things could come right at you from the blind side, and if you're not prepared, it hits you and hits you hard. So
Yeah.
some of the misconceptions that people come into marriage believing is that they could change their spouse, maybe while dating, because I'm very huge on foundation. I believe that when the foundation is solid, you can build on that. But if the foundation is already shaky, then there's going to be a whole lot of trouble. So I'd rather encourage the young people around me. I tell them all the time that it's better you spend time to invest in the foundation of that relationship before you go in. Because let's face it, you're not going to do anything to change your spouse. You can only change yourself. So a lot of people see some things that are some questionable attributes and character attributes, and they believe, okay, let's just go in any which way, we are going to work it out. And what they don't know is that marriage does not change anybody. Marriage only amplifies who a person is already, especially like we say in the African parlance, sabi finish. Sabi finish means that you've seen all there is to see about this person. So you don't need to put up an act anymore, because during courtship, you're on your best behavior. So people go in expecting that they are going to change their spouse. This is a huge misconception. The only person you can change is yourself. So do yourself a favor and realize that the person you met is the same person you married. Somebody will not automatically turn into an angel because you married them. So always place the focus of what you want to change on yourself. And also, people go into marriage believing that it's going to be perfect. Everything is going to be perfect. You know, you get married and you believe that all the pieces will automatically come together. It doesn't happen like that. This is another falsehood. You're not guaranteed a perfect family, and you will struggle sometimes, because for some reason we believe that once we get into marriage, we are exempt from struggles, we are exempt from trials and all of that. So you need to take the pressure of your spouse, that pressure that you expect perfection, you want them to be perfect. It doesn't happen like that. So those are some preconceived notions that people go into, and some people go in believing that the excitement will always be there, they will always have the butterflies in their tummy and all of that. And what I have to say to that is that after a while of settling into a routine, I've discovered that when it comes to showing love to your spouse, when it comes to wanting those butterflies to always be there, marriage, love is an action word. So sometimes you could wake up and you even ask yourself, why did I even get married to this person? You ask yourself those questions sometimes. So it's not always going to be every time that you're in love with your spouse and you're in heaven together and all of that. So what I usually tell people is that when those feelings, the butterflies are no longer swimming around in your tummy, you go out of your way to deliberately do acts of kindness, acts of love, even if you don't feel like that. So it's like a circle. Once you deliberately go out of your way to be nice to your spouse, those feelings gradually come back. And remember, feelings come and go. They are transient. So you will not always feel loving, you will not always feel like being in a romantic mood. And then a lot of people feel that, okay, once we get married, it's going to solve the problem of insecurity. You have maybe you're having some problems with trusting your partner, and then you decide to marry them. You get married, then issues of trust come up. They become really serious. Getting married to them does not solve that problem at all. So you need to know that outside of working on trust, because trust is earned, it's not something that comes automatically.
Yeah.
Trust is earned. So you need to work on that and understand that marriage will not solve those problems of trust. If you did not trust that person while you were dating, then getting married to them does not solve that problem. It intensifies it. And some people also believe that having children will also make everything okay. And they go into marriage, they believe that, okay, we are having issues now. Once a child comes into the picture, that child is going to automatically make everything okay between us. And that's another huge misconception. In fact, having children could be a huge problem because a lot of people use children as a wedge. They use the children to as some sort of distraction. So they focus on the children and they push their spouses aside. And what usually happens in those sort of relationships where you keep pushing problems under the carpet because you have children that you can turn to. And usually those situations create what I call enmeshment. The relationship becomes enmeshed most times because people, especially women, they tend to start turning to the children for emotional support that should come from an adult spouse. So it creates a huge problem. And once those children fly the nest, that's when the issues are so glaring. At that point, a lot of people tend even get separated because for so long they have not talked. They find out that they don't have anything to say to each other. And it's at this point for a lot of women, especially in Africa, if they have children that are maybe put to birth, they decide to go and do what we call a mugo, go and take care of their daughter who has just given to birth, have just given birth. And then they stay there for months on end. Why? Because there's something wrong with the relationship. So that's another misconception. And also some people believe that the marriage has to be perfect. If it's not perfect, then the marriage has failed. It depends on what you and your spouse see as perfect. If your idea of perfect doesn't include accepting the inevitable challenges that are bound to happen, then you will never be contented. You need to focus on what you have and how to make it better instead of the idea of what you want to have. Work with what you have. It's too easy to see other couples, especially in this social media age where people come online, they flaunt all sorts, they post all sorts, they say all sorts, and then you look at them and start comparing your relationship and you talk yourself down that you have a bad marriage. There's no marriage that is 100% perfect. Every couple that you see that their relationship looks as if it's perfect know how to handle the conflicts in that relationship, because it's not the conflict that destroy a marriage. It is how conflict is handled that destroys it. There's nothing wrong absolutely with conflict in a relationship. In fact, it can be something productive, it can be something healthy, because you learn how to disagree, how to state differing opinions, and you work things out. You learn how to compromise as a couple. So it's important that you understand that this is one other fallacy. There's no perfect marriage. And then you also believe that if you have a great relationship with your spouse, it will solve all your problems. The truth is that every successful marriage will have disagreements from time to time. So as long as you don't have a deal breaker in the relationship, some problems may not be resolved. You might just agree to disagree. So it doesn't mean that the marriage is not okay or there's something wrong with your marriage. And then there's the illusion of we've grown apart. Some people just say, oh, we have grown apart, we are no longer in love, and all of that stuff. Most people are essentially still the same, just that their perception of that relationship, their perception of things may have shifted. So what you project on the other from your past comes into play in the relationship. So when romance fades and the dynamics become entrenched, it's harder to see that the qualities you once loved about your partner are still there. And when these things happen, you need to intentionally take out time. Maybe if you have to do it practically, get a notepad and sit down, begin to list out those positive qualities in your spouse that you have lost sight of. You may have to do that literally. Take out a jotter and begin to think. I mean, you may have forgotten some, but in the process of brainstorming, what is it about this man? What is it about this woman that really attracted me and all of that? So you take time to list out those qualities. I can remember a particular time I think that was early part of the marriage. I think one of the marriage classes we attended, that I listed out, my husband and I listed out qualities about each other that we appreciate. So you may need to do that to give yourself a reminder of the positive things, because a lot of times we focus on the negative. So we tend to forget that this person that we seem to think is all bad has a lot of positive qualities that we once admired. So you may need to do that. And then also thinking that you have the differences, like I said, will ruin your marriage, and that happy couples do not argue. I've said all of that. And then you also believe that if you're happy in your marriage, you have to do everything together. You spend every waking moment together. That is what makes you a happy couple. Apart from the fact that you're a couple, you also have your goals, you also have your aspirations. Marriage doesn't stop that. And I keep saying that everybody that is born on this earth, there's a reason why your presence became necessary. You don't just come to earth to get married, have children, and die. That's not your purpose. There's a purpose to why God created you, that marriage should not stop. So it's important that you also work on your personal goals, your personal, your aspirations should not die because you're married, or because you believe that you have to be around your spouse 24/7. So those are some of the misconceptions that people have about marriage that they need to deal with those misconceptions that you picked up from home. I had to do that deliberately because I grew up seeing a lot of negative examples around me about marriage. I saw enough negative examples to say, okay, this marital institution, I don't think is something I want to go into. But I deliberately exposed myself to knowledge. And that helped to displace the negative information, the negative script that were running in my head concerning marriage. And the more I got informed, the more I desired a marriage that would work. I didn't just want to marry and endure. I wanted to marry and enjoy, because marriage is not meant to be endured, it's meant to be enjoyed. There's a purpose why you're getting married. You didn't get married to go and start suffering unnecessarily because of lack of information. So it's important that you take out time to debunk some of those myths that you have concerning marriage, and that will give you a better foundation to stand on. So that's what I want to say in a brief.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much. We have some people who have jumped on. Samuel, it's good to have you. Dr. Patrick, it's good to have you. Ellen, it's good to have you here. Dr. Eric, it's good to have you. Zini from London, it's good to have you. Sam from Ireland, it's good to have you. Stacy, Ify, Mary, Trent, Susan, Atim, it's good to have you in the house. Thank you so much for making out time to be here. It is a wonderful topic. Listen, guys, do me a favor and share this video on your page. I have some people who are joining in CDB. It's good to have you. Ambassador King, this video is not playing on your page. Can you share it on your Facebook page, because it's not playing on your page? I know it's playing, so please share this on your Facebook page. It's good to have you, everyone. The topic that we're working on today is how to work as a team in marriage. How to work as a team in marriage. So are you married or are you single? It doesn't matter, because the things, the tips that you're going to learn from this session are good enough for you to use and become successful in any form of relationship that you would find yourself. Now, marriage is one that we're really paying attention today, because marriages are crashing just because of the lockdown. We are already sad enough with the pandemic. I think that it's important that we pay more attention in how we relate with each other. Everyone is everyone is going through something, I know, but we have to take that extra step. And this is what civility is about. Now, some of you are just joining me for the first time. Usually we're here Mondays and Fridays. We had to take a bit of a break, but we're back here Mondays and Fridays. And we're just trying out a new time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time, because 12 p.m. looks like it's a really busy time online, and we have trouble sometimes with connections because we're bringing in guests from all over the world. Now, the conversations that we have here are focused on civility, leadership, executive presence. What we do every single day is breaking down the concept of civility into tiny bits where it is easy for you to understand how important it is for you to be civil. And you cannot agree less with me at this time where we are right now in life. It's important for us to really pay attention, treat others the way that you want to be treated. Civility is about positive people's treatment. Apologize honestly if you have to. Learn how to check on your neighbors. Guys, people are dying. Learn how to check on your neighbors. If you haven't seen them for some time, try to drop a note on their door. But that's not the topic of today, but I'm just kind of throwing that in, and it's good to have you here, Coach Heidi. Thank you so much for making out time to be here. Now, the topic of today is how to work as a team in marriage. So I'm going back to you again, Ambassador King. My next question for you right now will be, how can one, whether it's a couple, become a team in marriage? And what are the benefits of working together? Because I find that, and I really loved how you were able to break it down, like, all the misconceptions about marriage, because marriage is interesting depending on what part of the world that you come from. I think that marriage in North America is different from marriage in Africa, different from marriage in Europe and all of that. I mean, everyone thinks that it's all about just coming together and having kids. And we try to use the kids as feelers, like to feel up the spot. So instead of you fixing your relationship, you want to kind of copy and paste the kids to fill up the spots. But the problem is you can only pretend for so long. So right now that we're all locked up together, that's when you're beginning to realize that you brought in a little baby python a couple of years ago, and he's now a full-blown python who's ready to beat you up, who's ready to eat you up, who's ready to kill you. And people are fighting, boxing themselves, abuse, and all of that is happening. But the expert is in the house today, really to teach us, what can we do when we leave this session? How can we be able to communicate, with our spouses? I know that, sometimes I saw a movie on social media, which I didn't think that was a really expensive joke, but it showed a woman who was in a hurry to throw her kids out of the car because, after post-COVID. So she kind of drove the car and threw the kids out. I know that as parents, we've had it up to here. So, it takes a lot. You're going to have to do your own work. And then you have this full-blown man or full-blown woman, and your expectations of him is different. Now, we're going to take this conversation a different way, Ambassador King. And I want to talk about, the expectations that sometimes spouses have. We have this interesting expectations in our minds, but we do not take the pain to communicate what those expectations are. If I come to an agreement, a communion to live with you and get married to you, if you do not tell me what you expect, your do's and don'ts and your pet peeves and all of that, I'm not going to know. Like, don't assume, guys. Don't assume. So, Ambassador Kim, please talk about these expectations, because I find that women, I'm a woman, but women always have these interesting expectations of what the man is supposed to be and, what the in-laws are supposed to be. Did you take the pain to communicate with them? Over to you, Ambassador Kim.
Okay, before I talk about those expectations, because like I said already, a lot of people come into marriage with preconceived notions and expectations of what marriage is supposed to be. And one thing that can take care of that effectively is communication. Keep your communication lines open and don't assume, because a lot of times you could be assuming wrongly. It's always better for you to ask to be sure that you're decoding properly, instead of just assuming that your spouse is acting a certain way, and you begin to build up stories in your head concerning their actions. And let me give us this analogy. Supposing you bought a car that you always, your dream car, you eventually bought it, and you're happy that you have the car now. What would you do to maintain it, to ensure that it runs smoothly? I'm certain that you will change the oil maybe every 5 to 7,000 miles. You rotate your tires, you keep your fluids topped off, and you make sure that you respond quickly when you hear something, maybe a sound that doesn't quite sound right. Because if you ignore those sounds and signs that your car needs servicing, you could pay a very high price. And this is a priced car that you just bought that costs you a lot. So it's the same thing with marriage. If you want a marriage that is functional, you have to take care of it on a consistent and regular basis. You don't just assume things, you do not sweep things under the carpet. There are no two ways about it. Communication lines have to be open, because if you ignore the details, or you ignore what the Bible describes as the little foxes. The little foxes are those tiny things that we think are not important. Maybe something happened today, you're upset about it, and you just push it to the corner. Or maybe you have a spouse who doesn't make it okay for you to express yourself. So because of that, you don't want to rock the boat, you just ignore it and you keep piling things under the carpet. Ultimately, you're going to pay a high price for that. So let's face it, life can be very overwhelming. And in the course of doing life, it's so easy to allow the busyness of life to let us slip out of sync with our spouses. And before you know it, you have an individualistic approach to your marriage. Your husband is going one way, the wife is also going one way. So it's imperative that you keep in constant view that there's a need for you as a couple to coordinate your efforts and work together to help each other. So you must embrace what I call becoming intimate allies in the marriage. And think about it. What do allies do? They communicate and they defend each other. So even the strongest nations of the world, like we know, they have allies that help to defend their common interests. So you and your partner, you and your spouse are supposed to be allies. Okay, think about a race. If you've ever watched the three-legged race, maybe you've attended your child's inter-house sport and you have watched that race where you have to tie one leg to your partner to be able to run. If the other person is not cooperative, both of you are going to fall headlong into the sand before you know it. So your partner has to cooperate. Marriage is pretty much like that race. So if your partner refuses to cooperate, that relationship is going to end up in the sand. So many times, a lot of couples, they lose sight of this fact that they are a team. And instead of working together, they begin to go for each other's jugular. It's like turning on your team. Maybe you're playing a football match, like I hear Arsenal is playing today. And by the way, I'm not a football fan. And in the middle of play, you turn on each other. Instead of focusing on the game at hand, maybe you quarrel about a particular move that the other person did. So what will happen in that case? You're all going to end up in trouble. So couples need to understand that if one person loses in this relationship, then we both lose. If one person wins, then we both win. You cover one another's weaknesses and you reinforce each other's strength. When one person stumbles, the other person helps them to get up. And that is what marriage is all about. So somewhere between the deadlines that we have and our daily to-do list, we need to understand that our marriage is a most important ministry. Now, I'm going to be mentioning God a lot because I'm a Christian, and the foundation of my marriage is the Bible. I believe in God. My husband and I believe in God. So I'm going to be mentioning a lot of God because I see marriage as a ministry that God has entrusted to us, to our family. So it begins and it has its roots in the marriage between a husband and a wife. So your marriage is a ministry that is supposed to bring glory to God. And one of the greatest things that I believe has happened in my own marriage, for instance, is the fact that we can pursue our life's vocation and goals deliberately and intentionally together. It takes a lot of work to achieve that kind of unity. It doesn't just happen. And there's something that I wrote one time on my page on Facebook, which I want to quickly share about the true power couple, because everywhere you turn in tabloids, soft cell magazines, that phrase keeps screaming out at you, power couple,
Exactly.
all over the place. So the imagery of this phrase, you know what it evokes each time one sees it, is that of maybe a couple that they are rich, they are influential, and maybe they are probably children or from rich homes, born silver spoon kids. It brings that memory to mind, who have come together in marriage to enjoy all the perks of life and the ability to make things happen in their environment. So they become the toast of society. Everybody is fascinated by them and everything that has to do with them. The holiday spots, the designer things that they get, and all of that. So this is what popular media, this is what media describes as a powerful, the power couple. I saw one definition online, that a power couple are a couple both of whom have high powered careers and they are politically influential. So there's nothing wrong with any of the attributes that describe the power couple, nor the pets. There's nothing wrong with that. So don't get me wrong. But what God has opened my eyes to see about what truly describes a power couple is that they do not have to be famous to exude power. Marriage was designed to generate lots and lots of power, the kind of power that is ignited when two people become one. You know, when two people who understand what God's intent and heartbeat for marriage is, and they are continuously growing. Take note of that. It's not something that just happens, it's a process. They are continuously growing in that understanding. When they come together in marriage, trusting God together, the force of their combined unity can make impossibilities happen. So they become a force to reckon with. They become the true power couple because they harness their combined strengths to make things happen in their environment. So this is a concept that I believe the enemy has grabbed. The devil has grabbed this and he fights it. That is why he tries everything he can to distort that original idea that God had for marriage, for the marriage institution, such that society has come up with all sorts of warped alternatives to marriage as it should be. And he fights that unity that should exist in a marriage because he knows the potential sparks that can be ignited when a couple are truly one in their marriage. You know, marriage is one of God's power tools. I emphasize that again, for significant impact. And when it is done right, it has the ability to launch you as a couple to heights that you only once dreamt of. So that is why I am big on foundation. I believe that the foundation really matters. And of course, if for any reason you got off on a wrong foundation, I also believe that wrong foundations can be corrected over time. Because at any point in your marital journey, when you realize that I made a mistake about certain things, my expectations or my idea of what this marriage was supposed to be is wrong. At any time you realize that, that is when your morning has come. Like I always say, that is when you wake up and decide, okay, let me take some positive steps to ensure that I correct this. So a faulty foundation can be corrected, just that one needs the patience to be able to walk things through. So all these when couples say, look what you're doing to me, you should be treating me better, business, to me it's like scavenger hunting. Because for you say that your spouse is not treating you okay. It's not an act of self-love, it's an act of insecurity. You know, it is born out of fear and looking to someone else to be your savior. It's born out of the belief that your happiness comes from what your spouse does, and it manifests itself in you manipulate your spouse, you send them on guilt trips, and you start exhibiting passive aggressive behavior, and all this is aimed at getting them to change so that you can feel better. So when you are focused on yourself, you keeping scores to ensure that you're treated properly in the relationship. You're not actually in a relationship with another person. You're in a relationship with your thoughts about your spouse. You're not in a relationship with them. Is what you think or how you think they should treat you. You're focusing on yourself, on what you can get, and where your spouse is falling short. So thinking of the two of you as a team shifts your focus. Suddenly is no longer me versus you. It's all about us. It's no longer all the time I'm the one that takes the children to school, or I'm the one that is always doing this or that in the house. And what are you doing? you know, it becomes a relationship. You are building something together. So it's not, if you cared about me, you'll be calling me every 2 minutes, for instance. Instead, you could rephrase it and say, I'd love to talk to you more. It's also about how you use language. So the you and me together way of looking at things is exactly what is missing for a lot of couples who are disgruntled, a lot of couples who are complaining about each other. So that extreme look out for myself first approach can make your relationship with your spouse defensive, you know, and inauthentic. So being on the same team takes the frailty out of your relationship. So in relationships where one or both are afraid, you know, to be themselves, you feel, like I said, you're treading on eggshells around your spouse. You cannot really open up to say what is in your mind because you're not sure of how they are going to react to you. That could threaten the intimacy that you're supposed to enjoy, and it will be virtually non-existent. Because when you're able to talk freely with your spouse, you're able to open up about your fears, you're able to open up about your aspirations, you're able to open up about your passion and things like that. When you're able to open up in that way, it creates a bond between two of you that is able to help that relationship. So the moment you understand that your spouse and you are a team, you understand that teams are infinitely more resilient than individual identities who are merely trying to coexist. Because a lot of couples are just coexisting in that relationship. They are just there, but they are living like next door neighbors for all I care. So if you're already in that relationship, then you have to commit to keeping your connection, you know, while you're pursuing a career or whatever individual pursuits you're working on. You must make a commitment to always keep your romantic feelings for each other alive. Like I said, it's not all the time that those butterflies will be flying all over your tummy. It's a commitment to do the right thing. You need to carve out time as a couple to be together, you know, have regular dates, whether it's day or night or something. And it's one of the things that we did in our own relationship, because I'm also going to be using personal examples. My husband and I are both busy people. And let's face it, there's a very real tendency for us to drift apart because he's doing his own thing and I'm also doing my own thing. So if you're not careful, you will find out that you wake up one morning and realize that you don't have anything to say to each other because you're too far apart. So what we decided to do to bridge that tentative gap that would have happened if things had been allowed to slide down that path was that we decided that every Friday we'll take our time as long as both of us are in town. We'll go out on date night. So once it's Friday, the children already know. They don't even bother us. Sometimes when we go on those dates, we don't even bother to come home again. Now, during this lockdown, we couldn't do that because we all cooped up in the house together. We couldn't go anywhere because of the pandemic. And to our greatest surprise, our children decided to plan a coup for us. They set up our bedroom, they turned it into one romantic restaurant with candles, the full works, they were baking, they were so busy in the house, and they came, they pulled us, we downstairs, they said we should come up, and they sent a decoy team, two of my youngest, they came and they were telling us one ridiculous story that I couldn't make head or tail of. And what we didn't know is that as these two were telling us this story, the older ones were upstairs in our room, setting up the room. So when they finished, they took us and they now said that they know every Friday we go out on dates and we leave them alone. They stressed that one, that we leave them alone. So they've decided that since we couldn't go out because of the lockdown, that they will set up a date right there in the house. So that's some of the things that we intentionally do. And in the process of going out on that date, when you're driving together, because we usually dismiss the drivers on that day, and it's just my husband drives, it's two of us. So you get to talk, and before you go on that date and come back, you've been able to talk about some things, and it helps to strengthen that bond. So you have it's work. It doesn't happen automatically. You have to be intentional. You have to be intentional about your connection. My husband and I are very great at keeping in touch if we are not around each other. So if for any reason, maybe we are not together, he's always up to date with what I'm doing, and I'm also up to date with what he's doing. So that way we are able to keep our connection. And then we also, couples need to understand that you are co-laborers. You're not competitors. I do everything within my power to encourage and help my husband to achieve his goals. And I've also learned to celebrate the complementary gift that God has given us to be a blessing to each other. And we become each other's greatest cheerleaders simply because we empower each other. So he's not threatened by any aspirations that I have. If I say this is something, in fact, sometimes when I'm on a course of action, I decide, okay, this is a particular goal I want to achieve. There are times that I've said, wow, who even asked me to start this? Because it's looking tough. I think I'm going to give up. And he's always there to say, no, you will not give up. You're going to follow this thing through to the end. So we encourage each other like that because we are not seeing each other as competition. What he does, I also bring my talents and gifts to bear on what he also does. So we work as a team, an indivisible team. You know, when we work together to build the business. So as a couple, it's also important that you find out what your specific gifts are. I've gone into how you can become a team
Yes.
together. So find out what your specific gifts are. For us, we work together in our business. Even though within the business I have my strengths and he also has his strengths, and it has over the years it has evolved. We focus on our areas of strength where he has the strength, he exhibits that, and where I have my strength, I bring it to bear on the business. So your spouse and you should be able to support each other effectively when you're functioning in your gift. It lessens the frustration and the conflict. So it's also important too in your quest to becoming a team in marriage that you lessen your expectations. The
Wow.
greatest way for you to have conflict doing that marriage together is when you have a lot of expectations about the marriage that are so high up there that it's virtually impossible to meet. So let's face it, you're human beings. So you need to lower the expectations so that you're not left with the frustration of unmet expectations. As you keep building your marriage, as you keep building your relationship, you discover what works for you and what doesn't. Because what works for my own marriage may not work for your own marriage. And that is why when it comes to marital counsel, it's not a one size fits all. Because what one couple can tolerate will completely destroy another couple. So you need to find out what works in your own relationship and reinforce those strengths. And also do not take conflict personally, especially we women. We tend to do that. We tend to take things more personally. You need to keep in mind that you're not enemies, you're not in different camps. You're a loving married couple who are working together towards achieving your shared goals. So be quick to say sorry and be quick to forgive, because if you must work on your relationship, humility is important. And that is one thing that I learned practically in my own marriage, because for me, saying sorry did not come easy. It didn't come easy for me because um, growing up as a teenager, I was somebody.
It didn't come easy for any of us, so you're fine.
Yeah, yeah. So I was somebody who was really, really aggressive with the guys. Was really, really aggressive. So when by the time I got into marriage, I got into marriage with a man who doesn't see anything wrong in saying sorry. In fact, there are times that we have had many times when we have disagreements and it's my fault. He doesn't even care. He will say sorry. And you know you cannot continue reading from the same script when the other person has reversed the lines, when the lines have changed. So I had to advise myself. And now I'm not ashamed to say sorry when I'm wrong. So that is one of the things that has helped us. And you also need to understand that whatever you're building, that God wants to take the glory for it. At the end of the day, you are working to glorify God in your marriage, in your relationship. So there are some things that you need to ask yourself as a couple. You need to ask yourself about your priorities. Are your priorities in order? There are
Yes.
some, you need to call each other down, sit down and have these conversations in your relationship. Don't assume. Assumption is an enemy to any relationship because you might be assuming wrong. So ask yourself what your priorities are. Maybe there are some men, for instance, who go all out, they are chasing all the money, making all the money, and they are barely there for maybe anything that is happening children, school activities. They are just like strangers in the house. And then they think that this is what is making, what makes their wife love them. And meanwhile, what she may need is just their time. And for her, as far as she's concerned, that business that you're chasing is not is not top burner. So you need to sit down as a couple and ask what your priorities are and state them and find out where are the areas that you are spending so much time that is making you neglect your relationship with each other. Ask yourself, is there still romance in this marriage that we have? How are we encouraging and supporting each other in our individual roles? So there's so many things you have to take decisions together intentionally. When you are dictatorial in that relationship, then you might lose the friendship of your spouse. You might lose because they feel that, okay, you're always taking decisions without consulting them. And after a while of living together, sometimes we tend to make that mistake. Something happens and you take a decision, you didn't even bother to check in with your spouse, your ally. Remember, I said that both of you are supposed to be intimate allies in that relationship. So I spoke about that.
Yes.
It's easy to just slip out of that mode. So you need to check in with your spouse and take decisions together, because if you do not, over time, it's going to erode that unity that you're supposed to have in your relationship. And you also need to take your marriage as top priority. The communication. I cannot overemphasize communication. It's very important for any marriage. So when you make a decision that impacts your spouse without their consent or their knowledge, you're basically acting out on their behalf. You're acting on their behalf, irrespective of what their own wishes may be. You just take that decision. So it will not only cause trouble, but it could wreck your relationship, the team relationship that you're supposed to have. There are some decisions that you would take, and maybe you hear your spouse say, "Why didn't you tell me about it?" And what goes unsaid in that statement is that I'm your teammate. We are supposed to be teammates, but you're not treating me like one. So, given what I have said, you must understand the effects of making solo decisions in your married life.
Right.
And the correct approach should be to prefer a mutual decision-making mode than a personal decision-making mode. So whatever it is, as long as that decision involves two of you, even though it may involve one person indirectly, you had better discuss those decisions with your spouse so that they feel that you have carried them along. It helps to overcome the barriers. And also, you need to be an active listener. Because if you're not listening, you will miss even the unsaid things that your spouse has communicated to you. If I'm talking now about non-verbal communication, you need to be an active listener when your spouse is talking to you. A lot of people do not listen to understand in the relationship. Your spouse is telling you something, and already you have a mental list of what you're going to say. You're busy constructing the sentences in your head. You're not even listening to understand what they're saying. You can't even wait for them. Sometimes you butt in and you interrupt what they were saying. You're not listening. So when it comes to building your team, when it comes to building yourselves up as a team in marriage, active listening is important, because it's an act of assuring your spouse that you treat them as a partner in that relationship and you take them seriously. So it's always worthy to act as an active listener when your spouse is talking. Maintain eye contact and let them know that you are listening to them and what they have to say is important. So when you have listened, initiate a feedback. Like, it's something my husband and I do a lot. If maybe we have a disagreement over something, usually we've never had the sort of disagreements that have degenerated to name calling. Not ever, not even before we got married. We had evolved a method of communication and we know how to resolve our issues. And where we are not clear, we would always ask, is this what you are saying? Or is it my misinterpretation of what you're saying? So if you're listening actively, you should also give feedback on what your spouse has communicated to you. So that helps you to bond. It helps you to for your spouse to feel validated, like you are listening to them. And also, it's important for you to have lots of fun activities together. It should not always be all serious. You know, a lot of people feel a pressure of the marriage. They are so serious with the everyday things that they have to face that they don't have time to play anymore. They feel no leisure time, nothing. So it's important for you to be able to have some fun time, fun activities together. And if you cannot have weekly dates, like I said, because we do, is something that we did intentionally. You can decide, okay, at a certain time in the month, we are going to go out together for this. Date your spouse. Date your spouse. Don't act like two strangers in the relationship. It makes it fun. And you also need to empower your spouse. You know, in normal times, it may not be so hard for many people to work as a team with their spouses. But once their spouses do something seriously wrong in that relationship, they start to draw a line of demarcation between them and their spouses. Or they even begin to treat their spouses as if they are opponents. So, for example, they may tear their spouses down rather than boost them up. Maybe they become cold towards their spouse, or maybe they fly. You know, those things that the passive aggressive behavior that we exhibit when we are pissed off with our spouses. Maybe flash a mocking smile or make a sarcastic comment to your spouse. So when a spouse feels unable to bear up against failures and badly needs your support, if that spouse is feeling abandoned and rejected by you, then that teamwork is bound to be destroyed. So remember, again, you are in the same boat. You must help each other anytime. For instance, maybe something happens, yes, your spouse made a mistake or something, and everybody's bashing them. They should be able to find refuge in you. You should be able to support them. But when I'm talking of the support, I'm not talking of a situation where maybe they've gone to rape. You know, those are like deal breakers. They've gone to rape somebody or something. So if there's a disagreement that has happened, maybe you were out in a social setting and something happened, you support them publicly and bash in private. So this will help. It will help your spouse when they're in the doldrums. Do whatever you can to empower them. And you can look at it as a good opportunity to strengthen the teamwork that you have in your marriage. And then you need to confess your weaknesses to each other. I'm sure a lot of us have heard the opposites attract theory. And more often than not, people who are very different, you know, they tend to be attracted to each other. The biggest benefit of being a team with your spouse is that you can complement each other. In your married life, there are some areas where you're weak and your spouse could be strong in that area and vice versa. So as a couple team, it's important that you help to strengthen each other. Where this one is weak, you should be able to, your spouse should be vulnerable enough to open up to you and tell you that this is the area of weakness. I need you to help lift my hands up. I need you to help me in this area. And sometimes too, when conflicts happen, and a lot of things happen, it's not all the time that you insist on your way or the highway. There are times that you need to take one for the team and come to a compromise concerning some certain decisions that need to be taken. So it's important for when you do all these are like building blocks for you to become a team in that marriage. And it's something that takes a lot of work. It's a process. It doesn't just happen magically. You don't get to that point magically. It's a process. It's something that you have to do intentionally and deliberately. And it starts with a quality decision.
Yes.
You make up your mind that, okay, I'm bound to encounter problems and challenges in this relationship, but I'm not going to allow those to wreck the relationship. So it all depends on how those expectations that we are talking about are managed, and it also depends on how you handle the conflicts that marriage throws up on a daily basis, because those conflicts will be there. Thank you.
And of course, everyone is enjoying this conversation. Dr. Ira, it's good to have you in the house. Treasure, thank you so much for your comments. Thank you, Imabong. It's great to have you in the house. Franklin, Richmond, it's so good to have you in the house. I am enjoying this conversation. And guys, let me tell you, if you're just getting here for the first time, it's a civilized presence, and you're definitely in the right place. So do me a favor by sharing this video on your page and invite others to be part of this conversation. We bring in the best and the best alone. And we only talk about topics, of course, that we know that are pressing. There's a pressing need. And you will agree with me, whether you've been watching the news or whatever, reading the tabloids, you would see that divorce is on a rise. Divorce is becoming a pandemic if we do not take care of it. It's everywhere in the world, is hitting everyone. This is not about black, white, blue now. We're about cases. Like, it doesn't matter even if you marry someone who looks like you. So the foundation has got to be built, and that's what we've learned from Ambassador King, who has taken the pain to break it down, giving you tips and strategies on how you can build that successful marital relationship. There's so much that she's shared with us, so many building blocks, and I'm going to go back on some of them. And when you were just speaking about this, Ambassador King, what comes to mind for me? I believe that couples must be able to find their why first. What is your why when you're stepping into the marriage? Because I think if you get the why wrong, then we're kind of building on the wrong foundation. Nothing is just going to work out. So when you get the why straight up, it's not going to be a smooth ride. It's like you're traveling from zone A to zone B. You're going to have to experience a lot of hurdles, potholes and bumps. It's not going to make you go back. So I think that a lot of times why so many couples really drift apart and feel so irritated, can't handle each other, is because they don't have a why. So when you don't have a why, you feel like you have other options. It's more like, I'm just tolerating you. I'm better than you are. What am I doing here? Other people are waiting for me, and all of those,
There's a plan B already.
There's a plan B. So when you come into the relationship with a plan B in your brain, you're not ready to persist. You're not ready to work hard. You're not ready to be intentional. You do not see the relationship as a co-laborer, just like, Ambassador King has talked about. I even love to say that you're a co-creator, because when you come together, you're creating a home. Now, a home drop from heaven, guys. You have to create the home that you want to live in. If you want a peaceful home, there is a part for you to play. So you are co-creator. You don't expect that one person is supposed to make everything look wonderful and good, and you are just existing. So I'm sorry, guys, maybe that's not what you wanted to hear, but these are some hard truths, and the numbers are going really crazy. So we have to, really keep this on, because what happens is that the children get to suffer. The couples can do whatever they want to do. Nobody cares, but the children get to suffer. Some of those kids might never, ever experience peace again in their lives. Some of them might never be able to pursue their goals. Some of them might never be able to love again, just because of the examples and what they've learned and the history that have been carried on from their parents. So I will encourage everyone that before you go into marriage, first of all, find your why. And do not think about just yourself alone. Do not be selfish. Think about the children. Think about the families that have come together. I know we have some crazy people, don't get me wrong. But in most cases, I want us to be able to apply a lot more patience, just like our guest has talked about, listening. So civility is really the tool, the steroids that you need to take that's going to make the marriage work. And I'll prove that, because civility engenders respect. When you are in the marriage, you have to learn how to respect. It's not about, no, I don't take this, this is not me and that. No, that doesn't work. You have to learn how to respect one another. That's the only way it's going to work. Communication. Civility engenders great communication. How do you talk to each other? When you care about your spouse, you are going to communicate differently. Collaboration, you will be happy to work together because your spouse is not your rival. You're not in any competition. It doesn't matter if you have two different businesses. You're not in any competition. Like Coach Ida said, it has to be complementary. Okay, whatever skills and talents that you have should support the other person. So you always have to be sitting on support mode. And another thing that you have to learn how to do is to be authentic. Be ready to talk about those really ugly stuff, right? You don't want to just do the make believe, kind of I'm happy kind of thing. If you're not, we have to begin to talk about these things right from when you're in a relationship. Because if you do not speak about this right from when you're in a relationship, 99% of the time, what you've done to yourself is that you're grooming. You probably brought in a little python and you started grooming this python until he becomes a huge python. He's ready to kill you. And that's when we have abuse. That's when we have spouses killing themselves and all of that. It did not just happen, it started from somewhere. But all of these things are not just going to happen, like our guest had showed us. We really, really have to be intentional about everything that we have to do. And of course, we've learned so much from Ambassador King. If you're just joining us, please make sure that you go back to the video and learn, all the tips, all the blogs that she's given to us. There's so much. And if you have any question, do not hesitate to leave it in the comment box below. Send it to me on email, louisa@thecivilityacademy.com. And Ambassador King, can you just tell us about where we can find you? Where can the guests find you? So if they want to connect with you, where can they find you? Over to you, Ambassador King.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It just cut me off suddenly.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Okay, I'm very active on social media. Same name everywhere. We may I be King, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So anybody can reach me there.
Good. So,
Yeah.
Ambassador King she's on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And if you're looking for her and you kind of bump into Ubon King, you're fine. That's the husband and you are in the right place. So don't be worried. Don't be worried at all.
We are a team. When you see one, you see all.
Something to learn. Ambassador King is, a great expert in the areas of relationship building and marriage, but also a role model when it comes to really great, coming together couples. I look up to them. I see what they do. I'm running amazing businesses, but still being there as one and working as a team. I think that's something that is really remarkable, Ambassador King. So, guys, I'm so sorry that I really have to let you go. But please do me a favor and leave any comments in the box below. Send me a mail for any comments that you might have on the topic, whatever questions that you have. I'm so honored that you made out time to be here. We're trying to switch around our time because 12 p.m. sometimes we have difficulties connecting, but we're going to see how the 3 p.m. works. It was pretty easy for Ambassador King to connect, but 12 p.m. we're just having trouble. And of course, if we have to go back to our 8:30 because I'm a morning person, we had to change all of this time just because of the pandemic. I love my mornings. It's always a good start of the day. So we'll see how it goes. But thank you so much. And make sure that you stay glued onto my page to see whatever that we're coming up next week, the session that's coming on Friday. And I look forward to seeing you on Friday, same time. Chicas, it's good to have you in the house. Thank you so much for being here from Nigeria. It was so great to have you in the house. Leo, it was so great to have you in the house. Some of you who are watching from the So Unique page, I cannot see your name right now, but thank you for making out time to be here, guys. So please have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. And Ambassador King, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you.
Appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a good rest of the evening. Bye for now.
You too. Take care.